Alright, I'm going to show how I fix stuff. So today we have this Marchant silent speed 10M. You can tell it's an M because it has the multiplication buttons over here. It's a very early version because you can see it has the switch and it has the older style colors for the keycaps. And I actually didn't know that they made 10Ms in this early version. I thought when they started making those was, after they'd already switched over to the lighter color key sims and getting rid of the switch. But as you can see, they actually did make it in this version, which is pretty cool. So this machine kind of works. Let's put some random stuff on the keyboard here. And I hit clear. You'll see that these all spring back to zero pretty fast, which is unusual actually for these. Usually they get some gummed up grease on the inside of these digit wheels here for the keyboard entry, and they don't want to return back to zero, but these all return back to zero pretty much instantly, so it's a good start. And I have tested this, and like I said, it does kind of work. So we'll plug it in, we'll turn it on, and let's do 1, 2, 3. You'll see that the alignment mechanism is a bit sticky, so it's going to need some oiling and stuff, but 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. So you see you got the correct answer. Obviously the digit wheels have to be cleaned up. You can barely see the 0 in there. Do a clear out. So you got some stuck digits there that don't clear. We can try a multiplication, I think. That doesn't work. There's something funny too with this carriage locking. Doesn't always lock in properly. Locks in there. I want to be right around there. See what I mean? Then it doesn't want to. So that needs some attention. I'm going to be. Yeah, something's up with that. Anyway, let's see if we can align it. I think right around there should be right. What's the snap in there? I don't know. Let's try it there and see what happens. Do 625. See if we can do a 6 here. And we're shifting the wrong way. But I did enter it 6 times. Come on. I want to be right around there. Let's try and shift that way. Try it 2. There we go. I think. And 5. It would work if the adjustment was properly. So you can see this is supposed to be 390625. So you can see the 9, the 6, and the 5 are good. The 3, the 0, and the 2 are somewhat off because of the alignment mechanism. So this is technically an analog calculator. I know a lot of people call these all mechanical calculators all analog, but they're not. They're digital. And the difference between digital and analog is digital is in basically one of a preset number of states, whereas analog is basically has an infinite range of states it can be in. So on most calculators, all these digit wheels here have detents on them to lock them into one of 10 positions. That's digital. These are analog because, as you can see, that is not in a position. In a preset position, I should say. Basically, because this is a 5, it has turned this wheel halfway in between 2 and 3. That's what you're seeing there. So, technically, this register is the analog sum of the input drive from the keyboard and the carry drive from the previous digit all the way across. So every time this digit moves from one position to the next, that movement is geared down all the way across the register, even down to this wheel. Now, obviously, as you can tell, that doesn't look very useful to a user. So what they do is, when the register is not being driven, they have spring-loaded adjustments that basically adjust the wheels to one of a preset display position. So technically when that happens, then it is a digital display because it's in one of a preset number of positions. But when it's doing the calculation, it's actually an analog register. And all that's happened here is that adjustment is a bit stuck and not adjusting properly. So I would say this is correct, even though it doesn't look correct, because this is a 5, so this number here would be halfway in between, so it's halfway in between 2 and 3, so that's fine. This 6 is fine because this is still a pretty low number here, in between 2 and 3, wouldn't have much effect on this 6 yet. And again, the 6 is, a little bit above half, so this is a little bit above halfway in between 0 and 1, so that's, again, the mathematics is correct, just the adjustment is off with spring-loaded adjusters. And then, of course, because this is in between 0 and 1, that has very limited effect on the 9, so the 9 shows up, but then the 9 is almost, ready to carry over, so this is almost at a full 4, which, this moved a little bit more, this would be a 4 there, so, and then, of course, because this is a 4, it's also misadjusted this wheel here. So I think once we get those adjusters cleaned up, I think it should work. I haven't tried division yet. I want to get in there and oil some stuff before I try division because, when these machines get stuck in division, it's a real pain to get them back to the normal state. So, so we can clear out. And of course, clearing is a bit stuck. That one's not clearing. So yeah, a couple things to clean up and oil, but of course we still have to try division. And I can also up with this wacky carriage adjustment. But yeah, it does, partially work at least, which is a good start. So let me take the covers off this and we'll get to cleaning and oiling. Alright, so making some progress here. So I still have this issue where this doesn't always engage all the way at the end. It was every time, but now it's just at the end. I'll show what I did about that in a minute. I still have to figure out why it doesn't always engage at the end. But now, going to shift out. We got our 625 here. And our 625, so that's aligned. This is, as you can see, that one just moved a little bit. It's kind of adjusting slowly. This one seems a bit better. A little bit of stickiness, but the issue with the shifting thing seems like it got at a time somehow. Not exactly sure how that's possible. So that clears out okay. So got some sticky issues. A little bit too far. So I still got some sticky issues a little bit with the register. The interesting thing with the shifter, though, if I flip this around, I think I still have a small issue with that yet still, because sometimes when you push one of the arrow keys, it doesn't always engage properly. Okay, let's come all the way down here. I will say that so far this is one of the cleanest ones of these I've seen. And so far as there's not, gobs of grease and dirt all over everything. We'll look at that in a minute. So, we're looking at down here. So, all the way right there is a bevel gear set. And that is the shifter drive. So, the clutch is over here in the control section. And the shaft from that, there's actually 2 clutches, one for either direction. So, a planetary type thing. I think I showed that in my video on the Model 10D that I have like this. Ended up taking the whole side of the machine off and then got kind of further than I wanted to into all the clutches and stuff in there in the drivetrain. So if you go check out that video, I remember greasing those clutches, so I think I showed them. It's a planetary gear set, and one direction releases the outside planet, the other direction releases, I think, a clutch on the sun gear or something like that, for the different directions. But anyway, the point is that shaft can spin either direction, and the output from there goes to the bevel gear set, and then that shaft that it drives goes all the way up, and then into this plate here, which I'm not sure if you can see because it's behind there, but that plate has 3 bearings there on the top, and when that spins around, you can see it grabs the finger of the carriage. There's a rack on the back of the carriage, so you can see in this rack here. Each of these tongues will fit in between 2 of those pegs there. They're kind of pegs with rollers on to make bearings on that disc, and then when that disc spins around, it pushes the peg either direction and moves the carriage. So what I found was that somehow got out of time, this upright shaft, because if you look, see what I'm showing here, let me get something to point with. This for now. You can see this piece right here has a spring on it. Not sure if you can really see the spring. It's kind of all the way in there. But that piece has a spring on it, and that is the detent. So that detents the cross shaft in a stop position, so that the carriage is always in a set position. And it turned out that when that detent was, stopping the cross shaft, that plate on the top was not timed correctly, so that one of the pegs was kind of more towards into the groove, and so that was basically locking the carriage at an incorrect position. I have absolutely no idea how it would have got out of time. I didn't see any damage on those gears that looked like they might have been, stripped out, or that they were pushed past by some violent force or anything. So I don't really know what the deal is, how that happened. That plate there was held on, or this side plate, which holds that upright shaft down, is held on by 3 screws, and it doesn't look like they've ever been out. So yeah, it's kind of a mystery. I don't know what's going on there. Unless there was some violent action that somehow twisted the whole shaft and got it out of time. I don't know, but anyway, it seems to be fine now that I did that. So see how it goes. If you look down in here, I did put a little bit of oil on some of these parts, but these parts are like exceptionally clean. Usually like these gears and everything have like layers of grease and stuff on them, so they don't really look worn out, so like I don't think there was lack of maintenance really. It's kind of interesting that this one is so clean compared to what you usually see. But yeah, so I'm not sure how it's going to go, but there are some grease areas on here which I discovered when I took apart my other one. So this screw right here, should be able to get that out or not. I don't think that's going to work like that. If we can get that out, that's a hollow shaft, and that's supposed to be filled with grease. There we go. So this comes out. It's just a plug, and then there's grease on the end of it. So that is a hollow shaft with several gears on it, and then the shaft has holes in it underneath the gears for the grease to come out. So it's supposed to just push grease through the shaft, and then it comes out inside the gears. I'm not quite sure how you're supposed to put the grease in there, or like squirt it in. But I'll have to see if I can try something. There's that one, and then there's a little teeny tiny one down there, and there's a little teeny tiny one right there. Not sure if I'm going to be able to get that out. It's so tiny. Oh no, there it comes. And these are all grease points. Ooh, focus. There's a little tiny bit of grease on there. So I have to figure out some way of pushing grease into those holes. Should be interesting. Assuming that the grease that's in there doesn't rock hard and block anything new from coming in, which is always a possibility. I have something to poke in there. It's not going to work. You get this here. Actually, that one feels completely empty. That's interesting. Get it in here. It's too fat to go in there. So yeah, I have to figure out some way to put grease in there, but that's odd that it feels empty. The other one that I took apart, that shaft was completely full of grease and it got all hard, so I had to scrape it out and then repack it. It was easier to repack because I took this whole side off and I took that shaft all the way out. I could clean it out and then repack it, and actually everything was all greasy. But I'll show, yeah, I'll have to see. I guess you can probably just put some grease in the top and then use the screw to push it in. Maybe I'll try that. Well, it's gonna, if these are both empty, it's gonna take a bit to fill those, so I'll have to see about that. But it's kind of weird. Like looking at these gears though, you don't see any huge amount of wear on them, at least not that I can see. So I don't think it was run really dry or anything, at least not for a while. But yeah, interesting. So let me keep oiling and cleaning and working things and see how it goes. Alright, some significant disassembly later. I think I found the issue with the sticking rack. You can see I've got the rack out now, and I don't know if you can tell, but it looks a little bit bent over here. If you look straight on it, you can see this looks over here like it's twisted, and I think what was happening was, if we take a look at where this thing lives, I'm having to take the whole side of the carriage off to get this out, and then I had to, which was not easy because I had to move some of these shafts over. You can see they're a little bit pretty rusty, so I didn't really want to move, but hopefully they'll go back together and work. We'll have to see. It's not the easiest thing, but anyway, this thing, so this piece here, this kind of goes up in like that, so that this large piece is down in there, and you can see where there's a little slot all the way down in the bottom that it rides in, and this top ear here was hitting against this little peg, this little lever thing right there, because it's twisted, and I think that's what was causing the issue, because that slot in the bottom, locks the bottom of it in place, and then when this is locked in like this, and this is kind of bent over that way, or vice versa, this is bent over this way, pushing this over further than it should be, hitting that. So I think that's the issue, and I'm assuming that happened because either during shipping or at some point in its life it received a large force on the carriage that I'm guessing just bent this here, because this is the only thing that, as far as I can tell, that positions this rack in relation to the carriage. So if someone jammed the carriage that way, I guess it would be to jam the carriage this way, then that would kind of pull this ear this way and bend it, because this would be locked into the rack. So I'm assuming that's what happened. So I'm going to see if I can straighten that out and then put this back together. Not the easiest thing to disassemble, but that's just the way these machines are. These things are so complex, and the parts are real you can see how skinny this shaft is, and how thin these are. It's kind of interesting that they would put, I guess part of the energy they put into designing this is also designing, kind of designed to, I don't want to say durability, but designed to, designed to what it needs to be and not much more, I guess is what I want to say. If you went back to, say 1915, when they were first starting to put the Monroes on the market, everything was just way overbuilt. And there are some things in here that are too, but, you never find metal this thin, like in a Monroe. Maybe in a Contometer you would, though. Or like the old line Marchants, with the heavy cast sides and everything, super overbuilt in those. You never find anything this thin, but, I guess by this time they were trying to, kind of stop with the excessive overbuilding and kind of make things a bit thinner. So I might have bent this one a little bit, but it's so thin it just springs right back. And those are held in place by this piece. You can see it has little cutouts in it that will go in there and kind of lock those in. So I think it should be fine. Yeah, see if I can bend this back and so we can get it back together, and hopefully that will fix our carriage issue. You can see now with that shaft back in, this is nice and free, and you can see the gap there between those two moving pieces. So before, this piece was bent over and smushed right up against the other stationary piece there, and now you can see even gravity is enough to reset it. So I think that was the issue, and I think that will fix that issue. Just have to make sure that we don't damage any of these other pieces working in here, because like even on the front here, it's got all these little teeny tiny fingers that stick out, and those are part of the division thing. I don't think I've bent any of them, but you know, there's so many things to watch on these, and everything's so small and fragile. Anytime you work on that, it's a risk of damaging something. So let me get that back together, and hopefully it will be fine. Alright, so I got that carriage back on now, and I think that fixed our problem. So if we shift all the way over, you can see how that is clicking past like that, and it springs back just fine. The issue we were having before was when it would click past like that, that would get stuck down and then not engage with those pegs on that spinning disc, which meant that when it tried to shift, then it wouldn't catch and shift properly. But like I said, it's working fine now. There's something up with that clutch, I think. That clutch doesn't always engage properly for shifting that way. Well, that was the end of it. So yeah, so I mean, something that doesn't always engage properly, so I have to figure out how to get some oil onto that. I did clean up the front of the digit wheels here, and it looks like this is a different font from the normal silence speeds. You can see how this digit and this digit, this is the usual font. So at least the 0 is different. I'm not sure if anything else is, but you can tell the difference there, that 0 and that 0. This is what you usually see in the silence speeds. These are some kind of older style. So let's do 625, and should be good to go. 365. So you can see that those lined up now. It's starting to loosen up that spring-loaded adjustment thing. Actually, you can clean this while it's here. I have to be careful with this. I'm using denatured alcohol. You can use it a little bit, lightly, but eventually it will start taking the paint off. So don't, go overboard scrubbing these. Just have to get the dirt off and leave it alone. Okay. Oops. Should I clean this one too? Most of these just a little tiny bit of cleaning and they come right back. There we go. It's better now. Nice and shiny. These are just painted metal wheels. They're not any kind of molded plastic like you sometimes see. They're just painted metal. So it's fine to use rubbing alcohol as long as you don't, scrub the paint off. Clears out nicely now. I did try division once, and it worked once. Shall we see if it'll work again on camera? Usually it doesn't work when you try it again on camera, but what the hell, we'll try it anyway. 355. Now usually these machines will clear this digit here for division. When I tried it the first time, it didn't do that. So either it's sticking, or this is since this is such an old division, maybe they didn't have that feature yet. I'm not entirely sure. Let's try it without clearing. 113, and go. Okay, it didn't clear it again. Alright, so that should be a 3, but I didn't clear it. So maybe this is too old to have that feature. It doesn't automatically clear that digit for you. So we'll have to manually clear it, I guess. That if I had cleared it, it would be a 3.141 This is just the adjuster is off. That would be a 5, but because, well, I think it would anyway. I think it's just the adjuster is off, sticking a little bit there. 92920. So, only concerns are, I'm assuming that just the adjuster is stuck here, and that's why this is a 6 instead of a 5, because this is a 9, so this would be almost to a 6, which is where that wheel is placed. So I'm thinking that just the adjuster is a little bit stuck on that one yet, and of course it didn't clear out like I said, so just have to manually clear, I guess, for division. Like I said, not sure if that's an issue or just the age of the machine that it maybe didn't have that feature yet. Do a little bit of cleaning while we're here. Everything nice and shiny. Alright, I actually do notice that these are all 9s here. Not really sure the deal is with that. Unless it's just some kind of adjuster thing, but that's interesting. Because I did get the, if that had messed up and missed something somewhere online, it wouldn't not be accurate in these digits, and it is accurate in these digits, so not quite sure what the deal is with that. That's interesting. But like I said, I did get the correct result, assuming that this is just the stuck adjuster, but even if this had been a 6, like, it wouldn't have made sense that the rest of it would be right. Like, if it had subtracted too many times here, then these numbers would all be wrong. So, I'm going to say the result is accurate. Just got some weirdness with the adjuster here, and not quite sure what happened there. It's interesting. That digit did not clear out. So yeah, probably that might be related to this stuck adjuster or something. This is not wanting to clear out, so... looks like this all cleared out though, so that's good. This one is a bit off. Quite sure what it was there. So I wonder if this is got a stuck adjuster or something too, and not. See, now it's aligned properly. So I might just be a little bit of stickiness there. Might just be a little bit of stickiness here. But yeah, other than that, and this sticky clutch, see that I didn't engage the clutch properly at first. That one seems to work reliably. That one's got some stickiness issues, so it seems like most of the rest of the issues are just a little bit of stickiness here and there. I really love how fast this keyboard clears. Usually these are annoying to get working properly, but that one just snaps right back to 0 instantly, so that's good. Yes, there's a lot of rust in this machine, especially in the carriage, but it doesn't really seem to be hurting anything as far as I can tell. The stickiness issues are normal with this register setup. Almost everyone you get one of these, when you first start using it, some of the digits won't clear or the adjusters won't work, so that's perfectly normal, just due to, old dried grease and stuff in these overly complicated mechanisms with these tiny little parts. That's just normal. So a little bit of working, maybe a little bit squirt, a little bit of oil in here and there. But other than that, I think this is pretty much good as far as I can tell. So this video wasn't, super informative. But mainly the interesting thing with this machine is the older style with the switch and these older style keys. You see 2 of these are replaced, so I'll have to see if I can find. I think I'm probably just going to pull some keys off the other Silent Speed 10D that I was working on, because this machine is already, way ahead of that one in terms of working. And that one, when we did the video, we got it to work, I think, at least at the multiplication, but division is not anywhere near working. And this one, it seems, okay so far. So probably going to pull the keys off that one and put them on here just to get this, the right keys on here. And I'll probably try to clean these up too, so I can get some of the numbers to come back. I'm not sure if the paint's missing out of them, or they're just dirty. So, and we already did the demonstrations, so I don't really know if there's much point in doing them again, just doing the same thing over again with the case on, but I think I'm going to end this video here. I'm probably just going to, squirt a little bit more oil here into that clutch and, run this a little bit and see if I can get some of those extra stuck digits there working reliably. But, yeah. So a little short video on something I've never done before, which is take the carriage on one of these partially apart. So let me show actually. Move this over, we can get a look at the end that I took off. I'll turn this off just so I don't get any surprises. Let me rotate this one here. So let's get closer up on this here. So as you can see, this shaft, and this shaft all come to the side. Now, this shaft and this shaft you take out when you take the carriage off. So once the carriage is off, those two are not in question. So you just got this one. This piece is down under the carriage. This is the drop down piece, so that's not really an issue. I took this spring off. This screw here holds in a shaft that runs all the way across, and that is the shaft that the rack thing pivots on. So I took this screw out of this side and that screw out of the outside, and then I pulled that shaft. I ended up pulling it out this way a little bit, and then when I decided to take this side off, I had to push it back the other way. Because what you actually have to do is, that's something to point with. You have to rotate this, because this piece and this piece are kind of like hooks. There's a cutout in this piece of steel here, and then it comes down on the other side. So this side casting is actually rotated up into a cutout in this piece of steel. So basically what you have to do is, there's a screw here, and then there's another screw down behind here, and that has like a little finger that comes across over the top of the back of that steel piece. So you have to take those two screws out, and then that steel piece comes out, allowing you to rotate as far as it basically releases this one so that the side can rotate down out of the notch on this steel piece basically. And then the same kind of deal on this one. There's two screws, as you can see one of them right here, and then the other one is up behind this lever here. Take those two out, and then I don't think you actually have to take the piece out because the piece has a slot in it, so you can kind of just pivot it back enough that the finger is out of the way off the top of the steel piece, so you can kind of slide it, rotate it, pivot it, whatever, to get this side out of the notches on that steel piece to slide it off. Now in order to do that, you have to get all the shafts out. So like I said, these two will come out when you take the carriage off. This one I had to tap in so that it wasn't in the side anymore, so the side could rotate, because that was keeping it from moving enough to get off of these steel pieces here. And of course you have to take this top plate off, which I showed. And as I was mentioning before, you can see how this top plate has all these little cutouts in it that those thin steel wafers in here all slot into. So even though the one on the end was like a little bit messed up, I think I showed, between this and the piece that went in the back, that kind of locks it in place, so it actually doesn't really affect anything. It doesn't seem to anyway. As far as that being a little bit bent when we had it, all loose, I think that there was enough to lock it in to keep it straight, so it's not causing any issues. So I think that's okay. I do still have to put these pieces on. They just go on here like that. Those are, actually I just realized what these are. These are the hold downs for the cover that goes over here. So you can see these two screw holes screw into the top of the carriage plate, and then this hole here is what the actual case goes on and screws into that hole there. So that's what those are for. So to put those back on, I have an extra one of these. Not quite sure where that came from. I have to figure out where that goes. I don't think I know where it goes. Then it goes on this piece on the other side. I had taken that off when I was. Well, that's another thing. When I was putting this shaft back in, I was having a real tough time getting in. Like it was almost like binding, and it turns out that somehow these pieces here, which are keyed on this shaft, were down too far, meaning that the key pegs that go in the keyway on the shaft on these black pieces here were out of line, so that they could not line up with the keys in the part that actually holds the shaft. So this piece here has keys on it too, because this is what rotates when you clear the carriage. So this piece rotates, makes the whole shaft rotate, and the whole shaft rotating makes these rotate, and then these pull on these, which makes this other shaft rotate, and this shaft is what clears out the counter. So what had happened was, because this shaft that someone got rotated too far forward, it wasn't allowing these to situate properly, so that when the keys engage with the shaft would not engage with the keys, or it would barely engage with the keys on the central piece that that rotates the shaft. So everything was like all binding up. So I don't know why exactly. I mean, I guess it must have happened when I was fighting at the carriage apart or back together or something. But I thought that when I put these on and kind of pulled them to line up with the shaft, that this would spring back and go into place, but it didn't. So I actually had to put a little bit of some pliers on it and just twist it a little bit, and then after that it was fine. As you can see, it's working fine now. So I just thought that was kind of an interesting fault. That me trying to rotate the shaft to get it to line up with the keys on the shaft to drive was not enough force to pop this back. But anyway, it's fine now. So I did try and grease those points I mentioned on the other side. One of them I could see grease coming out the inside. The other ones I couldn't really see any grease coming out. So I'm not sure if I don't have grease in there or not. It's kind of a hard process, but I did get some grease in there anyway, so hopefully it's enough to provide some lubrication. Of course, pretty much I squirted oil on everything, so that should help as well. But yeah, you can see the nice switch mechanism here. Is that in shot? Just a bare exposed switch. It's got this little roller here that when you flip it, rolls back and just connects the content on this end and content on the other side. So that's pretty much the same switch design that they used in the old line Marchants as well. The switch in the same place on those. But yeah, like I said, I think I'm going to end the video here. Since we already did the demonstration and it worked out pretty much just fine, aside from those stuck digits. I don't think there's really much of a point of putting the case plate on and then doing the same demonstration again. We've already seen it work. But it looks cooler when it's apart like that. And showing some of the drivetrain running too. May as well do that. So if we can come up here, actually let me plug this back in first. Might be useful. Plug it in. Turn it on. Let's put a number in here. And watch the drivetrain go over here. A good view of it. So we're already at the end, so it didn't shift, but I could have shifted the other way. But yeah, if you want a better idea of the sequence of operation here, go check out my video on the Silent Speed 10D. Basically, there's a clutch all the way out on the bottom, which you can't even see right now, that gets tripped first, and that rotates the shaft halfway around, and that sets up the number, basically reads from the keyboard and locks it into the clutch setup. And then once that's done, it trips to this clutch, which rotates, I believe this rotates half a turn as well. And that half a turn is enough to drive the machine mechanism for the actual addition or subtraction, a full revolution to perform the addition. And then once that's done, it trips another clutch in the back that basically resets everything. But yeah, if you want a more in-depth description of how all that works, go check out my video on the 10D where I ended up taking the whole side off and That was not a fun process, but I had to do something in the end of that video, so I guess it's somewhat of a success anyway. I'm going to call this a success though. So hope you enjoyed this video, and thank you for watching.